So today we're talking about professional ethics. With how far we've come, we've gone through threat intelligence, we've gone through looking for jobs, we've gone through different career paths you can take generally in cybersecurity. But then cybersecurity is all about selling trust. So if you're not ethical, if you can't be trustworthy, then you'll really not survive in this field or any other field, to be sincere. So today we are joined with Mr. Bewes Mungai, who will be taking us through professional ethics. So I'll just go ahead and give a brief introduction of who Bewes is, and then we can start off. So Mr. Bewes Mungai is a seasoned cybersecurity specialist with 15 years experience in cybersecurity. He's worked in both private and public sectors. Some of the places he's worked include ICEA-LION Group, USIU-Africa, and KCAA. So he's currently working for KCAA as a Senior ICT Security Officer. His work entails developing and implementing cybersecurity strategies, policies, plans, and controls to secure air navigation systems from cyber threats. So his skills include governance, risk management, network security, data security, secure systems architecture design, vulnerability assessments, just to name a few. Then professional ethics for him has played a key role in his career development, as employers are constantly seeking trustworthy individuals. So I'll go ahead and now give the platform to Mr. Bewes, and karibu sana, and thank you for accepting to join this Cyber Shujaa mentorship session. Okay. Hello, Mr. Bewes Mungai, are you on the call? I see you're on the call, but you're muted. Give us a few minutes, we sort out whatever technical issue there may be.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, I can.
Hello, yes, now we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Hello, sir, you're muted.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. That was one person out of 44. I don't know that the others can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Clinton, kindly switch off your camera.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you can go ahead. I gave a brief introduction of who you are and career-wise, and then also of the topic today. So you can go ahead and start off.
Thank you very much, Hope. And indeed, I am always excited. This is my second time to be with all of you. I think there was the first session that we had where we were talking about choosing a career. And today we'll be looking at something very interesting, which is professional ethics. So if you can just give me a second, let me just share my screen and we should be good to go.
Okay. Then also maybe I didn't introduce who we have on the call. So this is a new cohort, not the one you took through choosing a career path. These are fresh minds, different group of people.
Okay, thank you very much, Hope. I think I thought it was okay. Thank you very much for that correction. Is everyone able to see my presentation?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, let me just see. Let me just...
Yes, we can see now.
You can, huh?
Yes.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Hope, once again. And I think I'll just dive right into it. And this evening, we're going to be looking at professional ethics. So we're going to look at what is ethics and what is actually the case of ethics. I think for those who know me, there's a question that I always ask, and that is a question of why. Because I believe that if you can answer the why question, then you'll actually go very far. It will define every other thing that you do. So we begin, first of all, by looking at what is this professional ethics that we're talking about. And basically, these are just principles that govern behavior. Behavior is basically how people behave. And this behavior is our interaction between people and within our environment. So in essence, professional ethics then becomes the rules on how a person should act towards other people and in the environment. It does comprise of standards and even principles, but basically professional ethics basically spells out how should we carry out ourselves, how should we behave peer to peer between our clients and customers and within our environment, because if we do not have those rules of engagement, then basically we cannot be able to progress or move forward. So it is an established set of principles that govern how a professional relates with their clients, with other professionals, and with the public at large. So that really defines what ethics is. So you can think of it being behavior, rules, standards, and principles. Now, once that ethic or ethics are written down and defined, then they become a code of conduct. So then the professional ethics that are written down then become a standard. And that standard then means that everyone must adhere to that standard. And we're going to look at some of them. So in essence, what we're saying is that the code of conduct is the required standards of behavior for members of our profession. And so once we agree, for example, we in Cyber Shuja, the minute we define our ethics and put them down and agree that we are going to adhere with those ethics, with the provisions of the ethics, then now that becomes a code of conduct because it has been written down, defined, and agreed upon by us who are members. So some of the guiding examples that we have is we have the Public Officers Ethics Act. And I have given the link there. I will share the presentation with you. And I just want to know from the plenary, maybe 2 or 3 people, which other codes of conduct or maybe acts or regulations of ethics do you know? You can even mention a particular field. Maybe I can have 2 or 3 responses. Anyone? Anybody knows anything? Okay, I'm not seeing any communication. So let's proceed. Probably the questions will come at the end. So having said,
hand.
okay, sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, there's a hand up. Stephen, I think, wanted to comment on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I was just asking about maybe the Code of Secrecy can be categorized as a Public Officers Ethics Act, the one that you signed during your employment agreement or your employment contract, while signing your employment contract.
Absolutely, that actually can be defined as a code of conduct. But specifically, what I was asking is, in terms of application, do we have any others that we know? For example, the doctors, they have a professional code of conduct. Do we know what it is called? Anybody?
Hello, is it the
Yes.
Hippocratic Oath?
Yes, exactly. So in essence, what we were trying to say is that this body of professionals, actually, if you look at almost every other profession, they will have a code of conduct. If you look, for example, at the architects, the quantity surveyors, you look at the nurses, you even look at the pilots, you know, aviation work, all of them will have a code of conduct. The accountants have their code of conduct. So this becomes very, very necessary because it defines then the standards which they should follow, and that way then their profession then becomes respectable. Okay, so I want us to look at some of the consequences of unethical behavior, because I always try to look at the coin from both sides. And if we ask ourselves, if we then are in an environment where people are unethical, yeah, what do we expect? Now, one of the things we expect is shoddy or uncompleted work, because I mean, there's no one to be held accountable. You can do any kind of work and there's no accountability. I think most of us have seen, we've actually seen examples of, you know, poor workmanship, especially when it comes to construction. And you find because somebody was supposed to use a certain gauge of chuma and they went for a weaker one, or they were supposed to mix concrete in a certain ratio and they did not, then you end up with a shoddy work, and we know what the impact is. Some buildings collapse. The other thing is you have abuse of resources and powers. When people are unethical, you know, you find a boss can just wake up in the morning and demote you, or, you know, or withdraw a right that is actually accrued to you that you should be having, or even reduce or limit a particular right. So that becomes another example of unethical behavior. Immorality. And I think we've seen this with the sexual harassment, you know, sexual favors, you know. That is a product of unethical behavior where ethics are not there. Impunity, you know, where, and this one is actually very, very common. You just need to look at our roads. And, you know, we have a highway code, But then because of impunity, people just drive on whichever side and overlap and just do whatever it is. And obviously that then means that you'll have complaints because services are not going to be delivered to the standard that they are supposed to be delivered. So all of these things would then lead to complaints. And obviously there is the risk of danger, harm, suffering, or injury because of unethical behavior. So we can go on and give many examples, but I think we have gotten the point. So when we are talking about professional ethics, what are these principles that we're talking about? And I just want us to define some universal principles that are accepted worldwide. Number one is honesty. And honesty is all about speaking the truth. That you, as a cybersecurity professional, when you're asked, when you're asked or when you're supposed to provide information, then you speak the truth. If there was a cyber attack, you indeed say, yes, there was a cyber attack, and this was the extent of the cyber attack, and this is what, because by speaking the truth, then you're able to give accurate information that will help in resolving the problem. Then obviously integrity, and integrity is all about doing the right thing, being moral and fulfilling the promise. When you're a person of integrity, then trustworthiness automatically kicks in. And trustworthiness is a principle about being dependable, that indeed people know that we can depend on Mungai because Mungai speaks the truth and is a person of integrity. Whatever he says he will do, and whatever he does is an action that we know that he will complete. So that brings about dependability. And with that also comes loyalty, commitment to the cause. Are you loyal to, or are you, playing double speak? When you are assigned a task, a project, are you committed to that particular project from start to finish? Will you remain loyal? Do you respect others? When people speak, when you're probably troubleshooting or working on incident response and people have a contribution to make, do you respect others, or you are the first person to actually brush others aside? Then adherence to the law. We have laws that actually govern, and in cybersecurity, we have two major acts that govern us. That is the Data Protection Act and the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. So we need to adhere then to the law. And it's good to familiarize with ourselves with this law. Then another principle is doing good and avoiding harm to others. Okay, that's a very, very important principle. Then accountability, meaning that whatever has been entrusted to you, you can be able to account and show that this is what I did, this was the expectation, and you're able to take responsibility for it. You have been given probably the responsibility of, for example, installing antivirus or what we call endpoint security. And you actually are accountable where you say, yes, indeed, I was given this particular task and I did install the antivirus, and there's evidence that can show that indeed you did it, and you did not do it halfway. It's not like you are told to, install on 50 endpoints and you did 20. And then in your report, you come and say, I did 50. That one that is not accountability. Then impartiality, which is all about being unbiased and acting in the interests of others. And impartiality is a very important principle because it means that you serve people equally. You don't choose a category of people because they're your friends or because somebody loaned you some money, so you're going to treat them well, or you're going to serve others well. You're the one who's managing the firewall, so because Hope is your friend, you decide to give her access to X-rated sites and block the others. That is not impartiality. So you have to do whatever you do with impartiality. Then obviously there's a principle of continuous learning and improvement. Somebody's microphone is on, kindly mute. Thank you. I think that was Mary. Thank you very much. So we can continue. So when we look at these principles, I wanted to give an example of building a house or a commercial building, and we look at these principles and how they apply. So for example, honesty. Honesty, you have been given money, you've been told to construct. You're going to buy the materials. Are you going to buy all the materials? Okay. So that first of all, shows that if you did not, then there's an issue with your honesty and integrity. Okay. Then it comes to the actual building. Are you following the right standards? The cement to concrete to ballast mixture. Yeah. Or you're going to water down and make sure that and by watering down, it means that you're not actually going to have a robust kind of mixture, which then waters down the integrity and the stability of the building. Are you loyal? Yeah, when you've been entrusted to build that building, are you going to start that building and complete it? Or are you going to take 2 other 3, 4 buildings and you do shoddy work, nusu nusu, and at the end of the day, you're not able to complete? Do you respect others? You're the construction foreman, you have somebody in your team, they are injured and they need to take rest, or probably they need to go to work. Do you respect them? And then do you adhere to the law? There are now many laws to do with construction. So are you adhering then to the National Construction Authority laws, regulations on building? Are you putting lifts in buildings that are at least 5 stories and above? Or are you going to say that watu wajipange? And so we can go on, and this example just tells us, I was just trying to bring an application of building. Then why are professional ethics important? Number one, because professional ethics enable us to create trust and credibility. And when you build trust with clients, employers, and the public, then people become confident in your service. It means that they can depend on you. Yeah, and customers then feel safe using products and services. For example, Safaricom, they built their trust and credibility. And so, almost all of us Kenyans are using their products and services because they have built trust. They've made us trust their products. They've made us trust M-Pesa, that we know we can actually make an M-Pesa payment and that payment will go to the right person and that log will be kept somewhere. So it helps us to build trust and credibility. Responsibility. Obviously, as cybersecurity professionals, we have the responsibility to protect individuals, organizations, and society at large from cyber threats. So we need to ensure that we are ethical. So, and by being ethical, then we are able to fulfill our responsibilities diligently without exploiting their knowledge or access for personal gain or harm. So we need to be, it creates responsibility. And definitely wherever there is responsibility, there is delivery of service. Then legal compliance. We have so many laws, and when we are, when we apply professional ethics ensures that then we are working within the law. And when we are working within the law, then we avoid legal consequences. For example, if we are remitting or doing our tax returns the way they are supposed to be, then it ensures that we comply fully with the law, and it ensures also that we do not end up with, cases of, of non-compliance. So we have issues like data, we have acts like the Data Protection Act, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. So those professional ethics ensure that we are complying with the legal provisions that are within the space that we're operating. Then it's important, ethics are important because they preserve privacy. Yeah. Obviously, as cybersecurity professionals, you will find that we'll have access to sensitive information. You're working with, probably bank account numbers, mobile numbers, people's NHIF, social security numbers, credit card numbers. And so we must be able to maintain privacy. If people know that their information is leaking, if you go to a bank and the bank is not credible, is not preserving your privacy, then most often than not, you'll find people pulling their money because you expect that whatever is private remains private to you. I'm sure none of you would want somebody to have access to their phone, for example, because your phone has got private data about you. So maintaining privacy then becomes very, very critical. And the reason why privacy is important is because you do not want information or data to get in the wrong hands, because once it does, then it can be abused. Then obviously maintaining integrity. Practitioners with honesty, transparency, and integrity, we need to make sure that as cybersecurity practitioners, we act with honesty, transparency, and integrity as we deal with our clients, colleagues, and the public at large. And basically what that does is that then it gives the client assurance and confidence of being able to engage with us at individual level and also at business level. Besides that, we also are able to build a positive reputation, and that reputation then ensures that it brings about new business opportunities and also leads to professional success. And last but not least, then we have professional development, which helps us in being able to stay updated on the latest ethical standards, best practices, and emerging technologies on cyber threats. So moving on, I want to give examples, which are some of these professional ethics. And I'm going to give 2 examples. We have the ISC Code of Ethics. And basically ISC 2 is a professional association, and they actually administer exams like the CISSP exam. So once you do that exam, there's a code of ethics that you are expected to be able to adhere to in order to maintain your certification status. And the ISC 2 Code of Ethics says that one of the principles is to protect society, the common good, necessary public trust and confidence, and the infrastructure which has been entrusted to us. Then as a cybersecurity professional, you are expected to act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. Again, you can actually see the principles that we're talking about. Then to provide diligent and competent service to the people whom we are serving, in this particular case referred to as principals, and then to advance and protect the profession, making sure that the cybersecurity profession is safeguarded and not abused. Then we have the ICEA Code of Professional Ethics. Personally, I am a member of ICEA, Information Systems Audit Control Association. And in their professional code of ethics, we actually have, supporting the implementation of and encouraging compliance with appropriate standards and procedures for effective governance and management. And then as a cybersecurity professional, you're expected to perform your duties with objectivity, due diligence, professionally and in accordance with professional standards. Then always serve in the interest of stakeholders in a lawful manner. Then we are expected to maintain privacy and confidentiality of information. Then maintaining competency, very, very important. Making sure that we are staying up to breast, updated with the latest developments in our fields, and only agreeing to undertake those activities that you as a professional can reasonably expect to complete with the necessary skills, knowledge, and competence. And what that means is that as a cybersecurity professional, you are expected to be sincere and give and take on assignments or projects which you can be able to undertake. Don't say this one I can do, and then midway through the project or the assignment, you end up getting stuck, and that then ends up having severe consequences for the customer. So as cybersecurity professionals, we are expected as at ICEA level to basically undertake what we are competent to do. That's what it means. Then we need to inform the appropriate parties, in this particular case, the client, of the results of work performed and revealing all significant facts to them. Then last but not least, support the professional education of stakeholders by making sure that we are always upskilling ourselves with the right information. So what are the application of ethics where do we apply ethics and how can we apply ethics? Number one, commitment to speak the truth. And this commitment to speak the truth is making sure that the information that we provide to our superiors, our clients, our peers, is actually the right thing. Then we need to account for everything that has been entrusted to us. Is it a database server? Is it a firewall? Is it data? We have to make sure that we account for everything that has been entrusted to us in terms of resources. Then maintain confidentiality. Do not be the person. Somebody has their mic on. Kindly mute. Kindly mute. Thank you. So we need to be the people who maintain confidentiality. Information should not be leaking from us. You know, if, for example, you are the database administrator or have access to staff personal information or confidential information, don't be the one who leaks that information. You know, you need to maintain confidentiality of that data and safeguard, because you have been entrusted with that data. So you have to make sure that you safeguard that data, make sure that the data does not leak or go to unauthorized persons. Then fulfill your end of the bargain. And basically what this means is when you're entrusted to do a job, do it and make sure that it is done and completed. Don't do things halfway. Don't be a half, we call them half-baked, And finally is the responsible use of resources. The resources that have been assigned to you, we need to make sure that we responsibly use that which has been entrusted to us. So those are just some of the applications. And in conclusion, we can actually say that professional ethics in cybersecurity are significant because they help in maintaining trust, fulfilling responsibility, complying with laws, mitigating harm, preserving privacy, maintaining integrity, and building reputation. So adhering to ethical principles is essential for the success and credibility of cybersecurity professionals and the organizations they serve. So we've actually seen that this professional ethics is very important, because through these behaviors and through these standards and through these rules, we are able then to maintain the standard which we are supposed to maintain, and it also ensures that we then accomplish that which we're supposed to accomplish, and that our customers and those people who depend on us for services can be sure that they're getting the right services, complete services, accurate services, and they are happy with what we're supposed to do. Because remember, life is all about solving problems and meeting people's needs. And with that, I beg to end my presentation. Thank you very much. Back to you, Hope.
Yo, is a laptop plugged in? Can you please check?
Wow. Aziz, is that a question, or do I mute your mic? Kindly mute your mic. Okay, thank you. Wow, thank you so much for that. I think it's been, you've done it so well. When I thought of professional ethics, I'd say I'm ethical, but then I've listened to the ICEA Code of Standards, I've listened to where to apply ethics, and I'm questioning some of my, what do you call them? Some of the things I do. So just before I conclude and bring this to an end, I would like to take questions. So questions, comments, clarifications, this is your time. Yes, Stephen, you can start, then Peter can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, our facilitator, for the great presentation. And I've actually learned most of what you have stressed about code of ethics. Just as Hope has said, some of the things you have spoken about or we have discussed, it makes me question even on how I approach my task and my daily activities. But my question comes to the scenario whereby maybe top management tells you to do something that it's against the code of ethics, and on the other hand, it can if you fail to do what they want, it can make you lose the job, or can render you jobless at some point. So what's your take about that? Thank you.
Hope, can I respond to that? Then we have the next question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I think, Stephen, you've asked the most important question of the evening. When you're put between a rock and a hard place, where your supervisor, your superior, your manager, your boss asks you to do something, and that thing is unethical, and if you do not do that, then there's a risk of you losing your job. How do you handle that? And basically, for me, I've actually been in the same situation. So I'm going to give you my personal example of how I handle it. So anytime when a request is made for you to do something that is unethical, either it's against the law, the regulations, the HR manual provisions, or something like that, what I would do, number one, is to insist that the supervisor puts that request in writing. Okay? Because if something is not in writing, somebody can always say that I did not say it. Okay? Or I did not give that instruction. In Swahili, we say atakuruka. Okay? So you insist that if it is an instruction or a direction that you've been given, insist that it is put in writing. That's number one. Then number two, once that unethical command, for lack of a better word, has been given to you, then you need to respond to that particular person with reasons and showing as to why you cannot execute that command. So what I'm trying to say is this, is that if, for example, your supervisor has told you to falsify a record, what you need to do is in your response say that this falsification of this record is against this particular HR manual provision, is against this particular regulation, is against this particular act, is against this particular law, is against this particular, you give the reference, okay? So you provide the reference for the reason as to why you cannot be able to obey that instruction based on something that is bigger. So that is the second thing. And then number three is escalate that particular issue. If the command is not withdrawn or the order is not withdrawn, then escalate that issue documented to somebody higher. Okay? So you need to, so even if it is a CEO who gave you that command, for example, or the business owner, there's a board, there's a board, there's people who are higher. But keeping a record of that unethical is what is going to determine wherever you go. And if something is unethical, it is unethical. Do not do it, but document it, put it down, show the relevant provision, then escalate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mungai.
I hope I've answered your question comprehensively.
I'm very much satisfied with the response, and yes. Thank you for your sentiments. Thank you.
Karibu. Hope, next question.
Yes, so Peter, your hand was up. Then we can have Maui after Peter. Peter, are you still on the call? Okay, we can go ahead to Maui. Then Peter, if you're on the call, you can put your hand up again. Mawio. I'm not sure if that's the pronunciation. Just go ahead.
Okay, my name is Mawio. So mine is just a comment to Bewes. Bewes has been my great mentor over the years. So I just want to commend him for the great presentation he has done today. And he has really done well on our organization. So I just like to commend him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benedicti. I also appreciate the fact that you joined this discussion this evening. And I do hope that I will continue bringing value to you and to everyone else. And maybe just to paint some light. I work for the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. And one of the things that I have actually seen is that professional ethics are so critical in my line of work, because I work in a space where I need to be a person of integrity. I have access to so much data, so much private information, information that, like right now where I am, I have access to data and information concerning the Kenyan airspace, for example, highly confidential and privileged information. And so if I then become compromised, or if I mean, the impact or the detriment to my business would be catastrophic. You know, it would be, if I'm the one who's sharing, for example, router and switch configurations to, you know, to attackers or hackers, and then they bring down my organization. You know, it shows that ethics is really at the center of everything that I do. And my organization totally depends on my integrity, because I have to, they depend exactly on what I say. So for example, if there was a breach and data leaked and I do not disclose that, you know, then, and that information now comes, goes into the press, you know, I will lose credibility, and my employer will lose credibility, because they'll ask, why did you not give that information? Why didn't you disclose? Why didn't you say? So really what I'm trying to say is that if somebody is unethical, you cannot even work with that person, because the impact on the business, the impact on the organization is just catastrophic. You know, if I decided today to go rogue and become unethical, I mean, I can actually bring down the whole organization. So ethics then becomes the essence of every other, the foundation of every other thing we do. If you're building a house, the foundation of the house determines the stability, durability of that particular house. If the foundation is weak, then the building will definitely collapse. And that is where professional ethics sits. Next question, Hope.
Okay, thank you for that. The session, okay. Ogada Marinas?
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. This is Peter.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Bwana Mungai, for the elaborate and good presentation back there. I think we've had a very informative session. And also to mention, Steve, I think we had something in common with Steve in terms of the question to ask, because I also wanted to ask about the you know, the people in the superior seats now giving you commands, and especially for us as maybe beginners or maybe entry levels. You find sometimes it's a bit difficult confronting them, and I think you've elaborated and answered it correctly. And I think for me, out of the choices you've given, I'll go with the one that you advised on making it written. So now that I have the platform also to ask a question, I would ask, in one of the principles we've mentioned that honesty is one of them.
Yes.
Now I was wondering, see, like when we have like something like a breach in an organization, and the breach is on the user's data. Now, honesty calls for us now to, I don't know if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected, to also make sure that the customers knows that we had maybe a breach. But now in the organization perspective, that will result to losing customers. So how can we practice honesty in such a situation, such that our customers like tusikuwe tunawadanganya that we are okay, but then in the background something is wrong? Please.
Thank you very much, Peter. And I'll give you an example of something that happened not too long ago. I don't know whether you're aware of the Naivas data breach. So there was a breach that happened, Naivas, and immediately Naivas came out and gave a statement. And in their statement, they first acknowledged, yes, we were breached. Okay. Now, why did NIVAS do that? NIVAS did that because if you do not acknowledge your weakness, then people will start losing confidence in you when they finally determine the truth. And you know something about the truth will always come out, whether now or later. It is just a matter of time. So NIVAS came out and actually acknowledged and said, yes, we acknowledge we were breached. And they went ahead and said, however, we took precautions, we took controls, and they explained that this breach did not go to the extent of actually getting the confidential data or confidential information. Not too long ago, eCitizen was hacked. The government did not deny it because you have a responsibility to the public to actually tell them the truth. And people will always find out the truth in one way or another. So you have to be honest. Where there is a weakness, you acknowledge and you actually say that indeed we have a problem. I work in the aviation field, yeah? And anytime there's an issue with the aircraft and it's airborne, the pilot, the captain must communicate to the passengers and say, we are experiencing some disruptions or some trouble, okay? Now, that is not meant to make the passengers panic. No, it is actually meant to safeguard the reputation of the airline, okay? So that then you don't have a crash which would have been prevented, and that way you end up even losing more. Customers. So acknowledgement of an incident is very, very important. Actually, when you acknowledge and when you're honest, yeah, it is one of the ways that actually instills confidence in the people, in the clients, in the people whom you provide services to. If there is a problem, admit the problem. Say there's a problem. Otherwise, if you then deny the problem, then what will happen is it will escalate and its impact will be devastating. Okay, so what NIVAS did, what the government did with eCitizen, that was actually the right thing. But then you take precautions to limit and minimize the impact of that particular incident or whatever it is. I hope I've answered your question, Peter.
Very well. Yes, thank you.
Karibu. Hope, next person.
Ogada, you can unmute and go ahead.
Thank you, Hope. Asante. I just wanted to ask whether it is in order or is it important to retract on a statement and then offer an apology later on? Like if you remember what happened to the former KBC boss.
Maybe Ogada, you can probably put that particular issue in better context, so that I can be able to understand what you mean by retract.
So sorry, I was asking.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it unethical to retract on a statement that you made?
Yes.
And probably offer an apology later on. Maybe you realized you didn't put certain things in a proper perspective.
Okay, maybe the question I would ask Ogada was, when you're making that apology, did you give the statement intentionally or unintentionally?
Yeah, probably maybe unintentionally misquoting maybe some figures.
Oh yes, yeah, I think I've gotten your question, Ogada. And as I've always said, I've always said, and I think I'm going to repeat again and again, honesty. Honesty is all about the truth. Okay, so in this particular case where where somebody gave information that was not factual or not correct, actually the right thing is to give the correct position and to actually apologize and withdraw. Why? Because if you do not do that, yeah, I've always said the truth has a way of coming out. And when it comes out, then your integrity, and God forbid, if you're the one who's the head of organization, your integrity and the reputation of the organization then becomes at risk. And that is where you find people even being given matching orders, even in government, because somebody did not correct, okay? But where you correct and say, I apologize, and it was unintentional, where you gave the wrong information, then you have a responsibility, and actually it is ethical to correct that which was wrong, or the information that the information that had been given. However, having said that, it then means that when you're in a position where you're actually giving information that has an impact to the public, then you must also take time to verify that information before you actually give it out, so that you can actually, because if that happens 2-3 times, where you have to keep on correcting your figures because they're wrong, then you will definitely lose credibility of the organization, your personal credibility, and the credibility and trust of the public whom you provide services to. So yes, I agree with you. The right thing is actually the ethical thing. What is ethically right is to actually correct where you have given misleading information. But even as you do that, you need to be very clear that it was unintentional, that the public needs to understand that it was unintentional. It was not your intent to actually give misleading information, but also verify. Actually, for me, before I submit certain reports, critical reports, I have to be sure that I have my evidence to be able to support the report that I'm actually giving. Because if I'm giving a report probably on the cybersecurity posture of air navigation systems, I must take time to actually verify and validate and make sure that I have evidence that supports the information that I have. So make sure that whatever information you're providing is supported by evidence. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question, Ogada.
Hello, Ogada. Okay, so Mark, you can go ahead. Mark, just unmute and go ahead.
Okay, evening everyone.
Good evening, Mark.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question about a scenario. For example, you are in a certain company, and then one of the employees made your ruined your reputation to a point whereby you are laid off.
Yes.
Now, you are considered an opportunity by let's say a cyber criminal,
yes,
and he or she wants to attack the organization.
Yes.
Is it right to give out secrets about the organization since they ruined your reputation?
No, I think, Mark, that is very unethical. That would be very unethical. You know, even if somebody offended you, even if it is your employer, as an ethical, remember, you're not ethical because you're employed. You're ethical because you're an ethical person. So even if that organization laid you off, it is still your responsibility and duty to maintain the secrets and the confidential information about that particular company. That's number one. Now, you've asked about an issue where somebody has probably given false testimony, false information about you, and that has made the company lose credibility or faith in you. I will go back to my first point. Make sure that everything is recorded. Let the person put things in writing. Then number 2, respond in writing with evidence. Okay, so table your evidence and say, person X, let's say for example, Hope, let me allow me to use you as an example. Maybe Hope came and said that that Bewes Mungai comes to work late, Bewes Mungai does not complete his assignments, Bewes Mungai is leaking information. Okay, so what I would do is to counter that. I would then collect my evidence that shows this is the time I come in. Yeah, so that dispels Hope's first argument. Then number 2, I give information to show evidence, to show the work. This is a task that was assigned to me. I was supposed to install endpoint security on 50 machines. Here is the report. Here is evidence. I have done it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is maintain evidence of the things that you have done. Why? Then, why is that important? It is important because it will then prove that the other person is the one who is unethical and not you. Okay? And even if it happens that you are laid off, it doesn't matter. You will still get another job because you have evidence that you did your part, that you are not laid off because of your negligence of duty. Okay? So document, table evidence to show that it is not your credibility, but in this particular case, it is the credibility of the accuser. You know, in law, I think they say that he who accuses is the one who needs to prove. So a lot of, people can say all sorts of things. People can mudsling you. People can give all sorts of information, but evidence is not disputed. Okay? If you say that I joined the meeting late, but there's a timestamp that shows that Bewes Mungai joined the meeting at 2 minutes to 7, you cannot dispute that. There's evidence that actually shows that. So keep your evidence, but never ever get to a position where you are disgruntled, and because you're disgruntled, now you say you'll go after the company or you'll go after the person. Revenge ni ya Mungu, okay? So don't be in a position where you revenge, because the minute you revenge, the same thing will happen to you, okay? If you're unethical, one day, the same thing. If you treat people badly, one day, the same treatment will be treated to you, even people who are subordinate to you, okay? So always be ethical, do the right thing, maintain your integrity, be an honest person, and the world will reward you. Thanks for that question, Mark.
Thank you.
I hope I've done the question justice.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. Hope, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I also liked Mark's question a lot, because I think the major point here, what we are saying is not that ethics is easy or it assures that things will go smoothly. It's always easier to do the wrong thing most of the time. So, yeah. Also, it's all about personal branding. You're building your brand, and if you build your brand on lies and dishonesty, you won't go far. Then also, the question session, we can take one last question. As that comes in, if there's any, I'll go ahead and ask my own question. So there's
Sorry, yes? 1 minute before you ask your question. I was just curious. I have not had any lady asking a question, and I think I would really, I know you're a lady, I would really want to hear maybe one lady ask a question before you ask yours kindly.
Yes, sure.
Do you have any ladies? I can see we have 92 people. There's no lady who had a question or concern or comment? Okay, Hope, I think just proceed. You can represent them.
Okay, so there's something you touched on ethics, and you talked about being sincere on the kind of work you can do or undertake. And that got me thinking, especially when you're starting off, there's a need not to say no to a task or a particular job assigned because you're not sure when you'll get the next one. So how do you balance that? If I know that with the right time, I can handle this task, but it's not that I've done it before, but I know with the right time, I can make a good effort to deliver. And also, you've not handled that particular task before. So is it unethical to take it up?
What is unethical? And that's a very good question. What is unethical is promising what you cannot deliver. And I'm not saying that you do not take up the assignment, but what I am actually saying is when you have an assignment that is beyond your control, delegate it to somebody who can and learn from that person. Where you do not have the sufficient skill or ability to resolve an issue, and I have done that, where you get something that you're supposed to do, and maybe it is way beyond you, probably you lack the adequate skill to be able to resolve a problem, then escalate, ask for help, reach out, ask somebody who can be able to do it and disclose. But when it comes to ISACA, the context that they were talking about is where you as a cybersecurity professional or consultant are given an assignment to do by a company. You are the lead person and you promise the company or the organization giving you work that you will deliver, knowing very well that you will not deliver. Either you do not have capacity or you do not know somebody who can be able to do it. So in that particular context, then it would be unethical for you to take up on that particular assignment because it is a false promise. But where you are in a situation where you're working in a team, then what you can do is be honest and say, this one I'm not able to do, escalate it to somebody who has the competency, the skill to be able to do it, and acknowledge that they are the ones who did it. Hey guys, remember, you don't have to solve everything, but what you cannot solve, learn from it, so that as you build your skill and capacity, you become better and better and better. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. Elias, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. A last question, kindly.
Good evening. Yes, go ahead, Elias.
Yes, a quick one. So, there is a scenario you can be in. For example, you are a cybersecurity analyst in a healthcare organization.
Yes.
And you have this situation where you have maybe pending updates on your security on the security softwares and such. And you can see there's a vulnerability and there's a possibility that attackers can use that vulnerability to get the patient data in the hospital data and something. Then you report that situation to the managers and the seniors and the directors, for example. And then they are on tight budgets. They are trying to cut the costs. Mostly, I don't know if it's myself, but mostly you find IT inachukuliwa hivi kidogo in some organizations, especially when we talk about updates and security patches. So in that context, so how do you do about that?
Very good question, Elias. And what you do is that you must clearly demonstrate the impact of not mitigating that control. Now, impact is usually in three ways. Impact can be impact on the hospital's ability to generate revenue. That's number one impact. Impact number two will be on show how that vulnerability, if exploited, could affect the hospital's ability to provide services. That if this is exploited, we will not be able to provide this particular service, either a CT scan service or a whatever service. And number three, show the impact of that vulnerability being exploited on the hospital's reputation. So there are three things that you're talking about: impact on finances, impact on services, impact on reputation. Okay. Now, most of the time you will find the reason why management might be slack in making that investment or providing the resources is because they do not understand the impact, or the impact is not clear, or the impact is not dire. So you have to be the one as a cybersecurity professional to be able to demo, even in infographics, to show, hey, look. And if you can be able to show or demonstrate an incident that happened as a result of an organization not mitigating that vulnerability, either by not patching or updating, then that would be the best. Because people will always associate with what they can see. Okay, so don't just verbalize that particular vulnerability. Demonstrate, have an infographic, show, and give examples, real life examples of what has happened in the past for organizations that have not taken that particular issue seriously. Right now, Kenya is facing a very huge cyber attack, or distributed denial of service attack. And DDoS attacks have really, so now DDoS prevention and mitigation has become A1. Why? Because you might probably, maybe some of these hackers have realized we might not be able to get to the data because of defense in depth, but we can make the application unavailable. Okay, so demonstrate, show. Imagine that this is the situation, that this particular platform is down for an hour, the impact on finance, the impact on service, and the impact on reputation. And once you're able to demonstrate through infographics, then management will actually take it seriously. And make sure that everything that you are actually demonstrating to management is in writing, so that it can be referred to, because if you just say it verbally, si niliwaambia, they can actually come and say you did not tell us, okay, and you do not want to get into an argument. But something that is submitted in writing, they will not say that you did not tell us, okay? And they being the business owner, they being the ones who run the business or run the hospital, then it becomes very, very clear. And if that impact is a matter of investigation, then you will have ransomed yourself. Because when the investigation is done, the records will show that indeed that particular vulnerability was reported. It was reported by Elias on this particular day, and management took no action. I hope that is clear, Elias.
Yeah, that's well answered. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hope, over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for the participation. Thank you, Bewes, for taking us through professional ethics and even taking our questions and really explaining it in a way we can relate. So just a highlight of what we've gone through. We've gone through what professional ethics is, the consequences of unethical behavior, the principles of professional ethics, the importance of ethics, where to apply ethics, and so on. Yes. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the insight. It's been a really educative session. I don't think we thought of professional ethics as that much, and it was a welcome surprise.
Yes, and maybe just before I let you go, guys, the issue of professional ethics is a big problem in this country, okay? And I'll give you an example. If you go to the county governments, yeah, like recently, I think for me about last year, towards the end of last year, I was seeking approval for construction for something that I wanted to build, okay? And that is where I actually saw unethical behavior, yeah? You find somebody who is supposed to be in the office to sign a document is not there. Yeah, you wait for that guy 3-4 hours. When the person finally shows up, they start giving you excuses. Oh, you know, I don't know, this one was not brought in the right way, this one was not brought in the right procedure, or I have got many others, yours is not the only one. And all they want is, these guys just want to be bribed. So I found guys, you know, guys who have kept on going day after day for a whole month, for months, just to seek an approval. And they're not getting that approval because people are unethical. They're not doing the right thing. Mara wanakwambia stima ilipotea, mara wanakwambia the boss is in a meeting. The other time they're telling you. So that unethical behavior has an impact to us as customers. We are not able to get the services. Then what do? We start complaining. Okay? So professional ethics, and I want to raise a community of young people who are going to be professional and who are going to be ethical, because when you're an ethical person, you know, one, people will be happy that services are provided. You will be efficient and effective. Services will be provided. When services are provided, the organization that you work for will generate more revenue. And when they generate more revenue, you'll also have a good reputation because your reputation precedes you. I work in the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. If today information goes out that we are sloppy in our work, tunalala kwa kazi, and the airspace becomes unsafe, then who will want to fly to Kenya? You know, so it will definitely have an impact, not only on us as an organization, but on the flying public. Cargo will not come in, people will not fly in, and you know, so professional ethics is very, very, very key, and it is a very, very big problem in this country. It is my prayer that all of you guys are going to be the generation that is going to change this culture, this bad culture of unprofessionalism, of people who are unethical, and make Kenya to be great and a prosperous nation. That is my parting shot. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Back to you, Hope.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I don't think I'll add anything. That is an amazing parting shot. So we'll go ahead and end the session. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Bewes, for gracing us with your presence and the insight. And we hope we can have more conversations of this type over and over from you and even other speakers. So thank you, everyone. And the take of the day, professional ethics. Be ethical. It doesn't matter how hard the situation is. It doesn't matter how easy it would be not to be ethical. It doesn't matter that you don't see the next, whatever, the next stage. Simply be ethical. Have a good night and rest of your week. Bye.
Goodbye and good night.